looking to be a great event today. There'll be some more people wandering in as we go. And, we came up with this idea of at first a community-wide open house, but then we transformed it into what we're calling the Highland Green experience. And, what we're hoping is that you'll be able to experience everything Highland Green today. But mostly it's about people and conversing and conversation. And I think you'll have a good time. I just want to start out by letting you know some of the people that are involved with the Highland Green team. John Coughlin is our Director of Operations. You'll meet him later. My name's Will Honan. I'm the Director of Marketing and Sales. Amber Grant, who is right over there, is a sales associate here at Highland Green. Brina Stairs runs the show. She does everything for us, including all our graphic design that you might enjoy in our newsletters and everything else. Sandra Halverson is our new construction design coordinator, and you'll meet Sandra a little bit later. And that's really Team Highland Green. And what we'd like to reinforce and what you'll probably find over the course of the day is we are truly part of this community. The developer has a permanent management agreement with this community, so we take this very seriously because we're here and we're permanent, and this is all we do. There's some other folks involved in processes with us. Dan White and Tim Folo. Hildreth and White Construction is our exclusive builder here at Highland Green. Linda Bernier from Bath Savings Institution. You'll meet her a little bit later. Linda is a great friend of this community. And Jane O'Connor is our special guest today. Jane O'Connor is a nationally known housing expert, especially in the 50-plus housing industry, and knows Highland Green quite well. And most of all, Jane is a very, very good personal friend of all of us. So, Jane O'Connor.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's so nice to be with all of you today. A little bit about me is that I have had a passion for this industry for the last 20 years. I eat, sleep, breathe, and take in well in excess of 1,000 communities over the last 20 years, all working with the 55-plus segment. And I have had the pleasure of working with Highland Green as well as Seacoast Management Group for about 5 years now, on and off, and have watched the evolution of Highland Green over that time, and have also studied the evolution of what makes buyers tick, what motivates them, what is important to them when choosing a community, why do they choose a community. It's been studied from lots of different angles. So we're going to get into that today with a very candid discussion with some of the residents, and going forward it's going to be a very exciting day. So welcome. So Will,
yeah,
why don't you tell us a little bit about what's happening at Highland Green?
Well, there's an awful lot happening, and it's really been extremely exciting for the last 10 years, but most especially the last 3 years or so. Earlier this year, Highland Green received some pretty prominent national awards at the International Builders Show. That was exciting, especially the best integration of nature and landscaping. A national award for our lifestyle newsletter, which I'm sure many of you have hopefully enjoyed. We put a lot of work into that, but it's just a real reflection of what's actually happening here. Our brand new brochure got an award. That was nice. We hope each and every one of you can have one of those today. Our Facebook page has really taken off. We've just gotten towards 600 folks involved with that. They post to it all the time, just interesting, fun stuff. That's just fun. There's a brand new bocce court at Highland Green. And it's not only a bocce court, it's like the nicest bocce court you've ever seen. It's right over there. But it's just a group of residents who decided, hey, we'd love to have a bocce court. We kind of helped, gave a nudge, and next thing you knew, our construction and infrastructure team just came down and built the nicest bocce court you've ever seen. Pickleball's arrived at Highland Green. Is anyone familiar with pickleball? It's kind of like tennis. but more like ping pong, standing on a tennis court. It's like the highest growing and most popular sport in the United States, and anyone can play. You don't have to be a racket sport player.
It is the rage right now.
Yeah, and
traveling down south and on both coasts, I will tell you that those that do have pickleball courts are putting in more, and those that don't, the residents are demanding that a pickleball court be put in. So
you don't have to move, and it's fast-paced, fun, and strategic. I've only played it once. I'm hooked. The Wild Duck Pub at Highland Green has just expanded and become a real hub of community. The food is unbelievable, and actually you'll experience some of that today. Most importantly, we're very proud of this. You've probably seen this in some of our messaging, but 27 states and counting that folks have moved to Highland Green to. You know, this really is, and we're honing this, you know, become a national destination for folks. Just between 2012 and right now, we've had folks move to Highland Green from Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida. Some multiple people from some of those states. Also, we've had people move from, or on the way to moving, from North Dakota, Texas, Nevada, Oregon, and California. So this truly is something that's really taken off on a national scale. We're actively working with folks that looks very strong that they will probably move here from these states, which would bring us to 31 states and counting: Colorado, Montana, Arizona, Missouri. Red Maple Drive is a new neighborhood at Highland Green. Last year, about this time, it was just a concept. Right now, it's just teeming with activity. It was 8 lots. It was a pile of rocks. We just talked to people we knew about it. It's all called for, and all the homes are being custom built for people right now as we speak. So that's exciting. The folks in Red Maple Drive are coming from Grand Forks, North Dakota, Kennebunk, Maine, Byfield, Massachusetts, Rangeley, Maine, Lake Katrine, New York, Reading, Massachusetts, Jacksonville, Florida, and Topsom, Maine. And I have an asterisk next to that because that's something interesting you'll hear about later. A couple who lives here at Highland Green who's building a different house at Highland Green, which is a good sign. Kestrel Drive, we're just finishing up this neighborhood. I'll give you some maps a little later. We have a home about to start here, and we have 3 lots that are remaining in this nice area here. And Basswood. Basswood is our next neighborhood, and this is ideal for people who are looking to move in 2015 into 2016. People are planners. We have to plan ahead. We have very limited choices for people at the moment. Right now, it's just a dirt road and some woods. Right now, we have initial commitments, deposits. It's 11 lots in Basswood, and we have 6 deposits. And these folks are from Cleveland, Ohio, Penfield, New York, Edgewater, New Hampshire, Huntley, Illinois, Simsbury, Connecticut, Columbus, Indiana. It just keeps getting kind of more exciting every day. So another really important thing happened in the last month or so, about a month or so. The Feelys moved to Highland Green. One of the very important things that happened. Joe and Caroline Feely, and this is them in the winter next to their home under construction, but moved into their home in May. And this is Caroline Feely, a close friend and resident of Highland Green.
And Caroline is going to share her story with you and see whether her story doesn't resonate with some of the things that you may be going through. We talk about 3 stages that we go through in life. One is obligatory, and that obligatory stage is when you're raising your family and that you've got your career and you're building your nest egg. The second one is discretionary. Those kids have flown the coop. You've got some extra money. You're enjoying life. You might be traveling, doing those passions that you wanted to do but couldn't because you were devoted to the kids. And then there is the third stage, which is transitional. And some of you folks are in this transitional stage. And Caroline and her husband Joe have been through that stage. And I'd like Caroline to kind of give us just a little bit of background about who she is and what she does, but also share with you her experience of going through exactly what you folks are going through today, because she's a recent resident here. Caroline, can you share with us some of that detail?
Sure. I like the 3 stages that you mentioned, the description of that. And when we retired about 3 years ago, we were in Oakland, Maine, near Waterville. It's in the Belgrade Lakes area. It's a very nice area, but it's an hour and 15 minutes from the ocean, from here anyway. We had a sailboat, have a small sailboat we share with a friend that we keep in Harpswell, so it's an hour and 15 minutes. Every time we wanted to go sailing, we would drive an hour and 15 minutes, and last year we only went out a few times because most times when we came, the wind had died. And it was very frustrating. So we moved to Oakland, Maine, almost 20 years ago when my husband took a job at Colby College there. I'm a social worker, clinical social worker. I'd been working in Portland, got a job with a hospital in Waterville. So for the next almost 20 years, we had built a house. It was in a community of homes that had a common lot on the lake. So what more could we need, right? When we retired, again, college town, very nice. Our kids are in San Francisco, the Boston area, the mountains in California. We have to travel to see them, they have to travel to see us. We couldn't afford to relocate where they live either. They live in very expensive, well, it's just, we couldn't afford it. So where do we want to be? We could stay where we were, we could, so I'm really fascinated to see how people figure out where they want to be. One of the thoughts that we've talked about is that you don't know that you're going to really face exactly that question because you assume you're going to stay where you are until you can't live there anymore. I mean, it's kind of like that was sort of what we thought. Then we started looking around. Okay, so we want to be closer to the ocean. And we drove around and we looked at everything. And we looked at everything online. And there were condominiums and there were houses and we didn't like any of them. And we said, well, let's drive through Highland Green. Well, we can't afford to live there. And my first thought when we drove in is we can't afford to live here. So we came and we spoke with Will. And being a social worker, I've told Will that his work here and Amber's work here is very much helping people to understand maybe some options that they have that they didn't know they had, maybe to explore what the possibilities are, including Highland Green. You know, no pressure, no pushing. Who are you? What do you want? What are you looking for? Why? You know, those kinds of questions. And in the process, we began to be more clear about what we wanted. And we knew that we wanted a sense of community. We had liked that. We were used to that in the neighborhood. But we also wanted to be in a more cooperative community where there was a variety of people from a lot of different places. I would kind of describe Highland Green as a little bit like an expatriate community where it is people from all over the place, and not everyone has kids and grandkids, some do, some don't, but they're interests, they're places that you go back to where you used to live, they're places you travel to because you've always wanted to or you've enjoyed it before. And Highland Green can kind of accommodate all of that. So for us, it was, can we build? And that will be talked about later as well. My husband is an architect, and when we built our house before, he had complete control over that process with our builder and our subs that we hired, all of that. Here, of course, that's not exactly the case, so they'll be talking about that later and how well that works. But it was a long process for us, it felt like at the time, but it was really only a few months. I think we came in June, May?
June, I believe.
June,
yeah.
I'm not really sure.
And, well, you moved in less than a year later.
Yeah, so we moved in May 5th anyway. So it's very, very recent. We had met our neighbors, some of the neighbors in our neighborhood, and invited them to, because it was so close by, invited them to our house in Waterville so they could sort of see that we did have a home once. And then that was nice. So the transition, because if you're building or if you're buying, because the transition takes time, it didn't feel abrupt at all. And we had total control over the choices that we made.
And with your husband being an architect, how did that dovetail for you and as your experience?
Initially, it was frightening for him because he didn't have that control, you know, in the sense that at Highland Green there are the vendors and the builder. Well, we heard nothing but good things about all of them. And the track record of Hildreth and White is really good here. And our experience with them was project management was superb, just absolutely superb, and with the Highland Green staff as well. So obviously it turned out just fine. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're building a house, though, it's very stressful. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just is. There's so many.
And we're going to meet the entire team in a little bit, so
we'll
that'll
go through that.
So I won't go
process.
there. I won't go there. But just as an experience, having just moved in May, it is stressful. And you're packing, and you might be trying to get rid of. You might be trying to sell your previous home and getting your family used to the idea that. My kids' first thought was, "Are you guys okay? You're moving to a retirement community. Are you all right?" And there is a real distinct identity here of we're fine, we're active, we do things. It's a statement, and it's a really true statement.
So, Will, tell us what is unique about Highland Green.
Well, we've spent an awful lot of time figuring that out based on what the choices people make and what we know to be. And we call it the Highland Green DNA internally here, and or the Constitution. And it's really what guides all of our thoughts, all of our messaging, all of our interactions, because it's real. And quite simply, these are the things that make Highland Green unique. We find out time and time again. Local ownership, our location, conservation in nature, strength and stability, neighborly ambiance, and wellness. And I'm just going to touch on each one of those. Local ownership, that happens to be Joe and Caroline right there meeting John Wasilewski, our owner and developer. This whole thing came right out of his head. And John's up here as a visionary. He lives in Maine. He's a local person. He's hands-on. He's got a permanent stake in this community, which you'll hear about later, which is important. But truly, John is really just a people person, ultimately. But it's his vision that's allowed us all to really enjoy being here, living here, working here, what have you. Don't know why that's fading off on the side. Location, I don't have to tell most of you about how central this is to just about anything in Maine. Quick shot down to Portland, right next door to a college town, very important to a lot of folks. Like I said, quick shot down to Portland and everything that has to offer. Proximity to just about anything that's on the Maine coast. Conservation, ecology, and nature. This is a very integral part of Highland Green. This is a very vast campus. In this aerial photo you see housing. There's much more than that. This concept map will show you that other than the streets and the housing, everything in dark green is held in a land trust, will never be built on, and is conservation land. So conservation, ecology, and nature, and the ability to embrace that within the security of a planned community has just been a huge, almost singular for some people, draw to this community. And it's not just a bunch of open space, trails, and a river. It's actual working conservation land with a nonprofit organization co-founded by our developer and the founder of the Green Party, actually, that manages the conservation land, and an ecology center, which is an educational center. So it really is truly unique. And so Highland Green winning the best integration of nature at the International Builders Show was really a no-brainer, actually. And we have synergy with the nonprofit organization that manages all that. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later. Strength and stability. One of the draws to Highland Green that a lot of people tell us that even though they can live in a custom-built home, it's a low-maintenance environment, meaning don't have to worry as much about maintenance and can spend more time enjoying life. Highland Green is cooperative ownership, much like a condominium, as I just mentioned. Low maintenance living. There's other advantages, meaning a permanent management agreement, no turnover of management, which protects the vision. But most of all, in any condo, cooperative, HOA, let's call it, it's only as strong as its financial underpinnings and the strengths of its reserves. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And this community, its residents, its boards, its management is dedicated to 100% transparency. Right up on that bulletin board, right over on the wall, is every financial statement available at Highland Green. We have comprehensive reserve studies, so we are actually promoting the finances of this community. And anytime you have collective maintenance in a community, as I said, it's only as strong as its reserves. And we'll talk more about that later. But this community is second to none in regard to that. So strength and stability is important, even in terms of a reserve investment committee, which you'll hear about later, which enhances the value and the strength of what the residents that live here have. This is a quote I keep going back to time and time again. Many people approaching retirement age are thinking not just about where they want to live and what sort of home they want, but also what sort of activities they will do and whom they will want nearby. This is from the New York Times from 2011, and we go back to this time and time again because our other unique themes here at Highland Green, neighborly ambiance, meaning, let's call it sense of community. Whether that is the ability to be interactive with others right here at the community center with resident-driven activities. There's a lot that goes on here. This is the Resident Activities Committee, a group of volunteer residents who are highly organized in organizing things that go on here at the community center for people who want to be involved. They're actually meeting in that conference room behind you right now, interestingly enough. Wellness is another theme. Wellness, a new thing, the Mid-Coast Adult Primary Care doctor's offices were just built directly across from Highland Green. Just a new feature of the area that's neat. But wellness is not really to do with health and medical care. Wellness can mean exercise, being outdoors, being active, but really it's dovetailed with neighborly ambiance and sense of community, the ability to be interactive with other people. Time and time again, all those people you hear about that are moving from all over the country, maybe the number one statement that a lot of people make. You know, the ability to connect with other people, to be active, to be mentally engaged with others, socially also, is just a big, important thing to all of us, of course.
Yeah, I'd like to add something here. It has been studied over time that there are three things that contribute to one's longevity. They are nutrition, strength training, and social interactivity. And that social interactivity is really a critical component of that. We hope that people take care of themselves health-wise in terms of their exercise and their nutrition, but many times as one gets into another stage in life where they are either in a transitional or they feel as if they're going to stay put with where they are missing that social component of it. And what is so strong here at Highland Green, I have witnessed it, I've watched it evolve over years, is that resident-driven activity that keeps people connected, as Bill was talking about. And it's not only connected in lively activities like kayaking or going out sailing, but it's also the mind. It's also connecting with the mind. Whether it's playing cards together, whether it's just a simple conversation with another, whether it's showing that compassion or care for your neighbor. That is all part of what we need as human beings, and it is most neglected as we age. And that's why these communities are such a gift, because it does keep people tight together, it does keep people interacting, and it does keep those synapses sparking in the brain because of that need for socialization. One of the most overlooked parts of your own longevity is keeping yourself plugged in. So Caroline, we've heard what Will just presented in terms of what is unique about Highland Green, and I know in your transitional stage that you were in that there were certain things that you and Joe were looking for, and there was a tipping point for you at some point where you said, I found what I wanted. I could go anywhere. Our kids are around the country. We've got lots of choices out there, including staying put. So help everybody understand what your thought process and Joe's thought process, and whether they were simpatico or not, whether you were both walking the same paths, because I know some of you have different views as well. So can you help us understand that, and also let's zero in on what you identified as unique that you wanted to complement your lifestyle going forward with?
Boy, that's a big question. To summarize, well, we needed to be able to understand that our finances would allow this move.
Can you hear her in the back, everybody?
Sorry, I have a very soft voice.
Yeah.
The finances had to be in order. We had to take some time to figure that out. We had to take some time to figure out what everything would cost. We had to really, it was a big commitment. We had to think about whether our house would sell, you know, all of those practical things. Were we going to get trapped really wanting this and then not being able to do it? You know, how enthusiastic do you get before you have to pull the plug, or if you don't have enough enthusiasm, is your energy not going to carry you through? It is always an issue. When we did the finances, we discovered that it was basically a lateral move for us. If we were paying somebody what it would cost to do what is done as part of the cooperative here, if the things that we would not be doing ourselves outdoors on maintenance of the house and the yard, it would have been the same amount. Now, are those fees going to stay exactly that amount forever? No, of course not. But that was a big surprise to us, and we never thought we would. We never thought we would be faced with that, in that when we retired, we still had the enthusiasm for working outdoors and doing gardening and mowing and all of that. And as a few years went on, we found the energy just wasn't the same, and we were no longer, that was taking all of our energy. That was taking all of our energy, and we just really didn't have enough time for fun. The other thing is that as Joe's 70, I'm 68, we've lost friends. We've lost close friends to illnesses. Families living all over the place. So the community was really important. People of all ages who we could relate to was a really key component. And so this community fit that bill very well. And we found that to be true by just meeting people and being really, and there was a point I didn't feel qualified, well, I still don't feel qualified to live here. There is so much expertise in each individual, so much wealth of experience and openness that I've really been amazed. I have to honestly say, there was a point I said to Will, you know, is this for real? Or is this, how can this be? And so I asked one person who'd been here for a long time, and asked that, and they said, all I know is I wake up every morning being really glad to be at Highland Green. And honest to God, well, it's only been since the beginning of May, but that is exactly how we feel in the morning when we wake up, where we're just really glad to be here. Because we don't have to do these other things, we can have some fun. And there's always someone to go canoeing with. There's always someone to go for a walk with. There's someone to watch your cat or your dog. You know, it's a really unusual situation. I don't know if that answered.
Yeah, what was the tipping point for you?
Tipping point. The people. The people was really, we began to feel like we wanted to be here. We really wanted to be here. It was true that we also wanted to be in this area, more so all the time. The more we came here, the more we wanted to be here. The other day we were in Brunswick, and we looked at each other and said, I can't believe we live here. Now, if you've always lived in Brunswick, it might not be so exciting, but it's so convenient to everything, and to Portland.
Tell us how many times you came back to visit before you felt that you knew.
Every 2 weeks, every week, for a while. I don't think it took a real long time for us to know that we wanted to be here. The tipping point was, could we do it? And that involved talking with Will and John Coughlin and getting the information about the security of the co-ops. That was really key, and of the organization. And then just looking at doing our own due diligence. And it depends, you know, everyone's different as far as how long that takes. But once we knew that we could do it financially, that was the tipping point. We were done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I might, my experience with the Feelys, one day last June, Joe Feely walked into my office, and maybe a somewhat typical interaction. I just want to grab a little information. I can't really talk to anybody. I don't have any time. Yeah, I just want to get a little information. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. You know, we can definitely provide you with anything you need. Where do you live? What do you do? And he told me he was an architect. I said, you know, I happen to be reviewing our building specifications as part of an agreement with a customer. You want to look at them? He said, yeah. He's an architect, right? So I handed him the building specs, and he went over it, and he said, oh, this looks good. And we sat down in my office. I think he was there for an hour and a half.
But he just wanted to stop by.
He had no time, just wanted to stop by. You know, didn't want to talk to anybody that might try to sell him something.
And then we found the people we knew in common, and the people who were here that we might know in common, and it just evolved. But
did you go to events, Caroline? Did you come back for events where
only
you had
one.
that social interaction?
Only one, and that was after I think we made the commitment, I believe.
Yep. Oftentimes, I would say the best events around here, I mean, this is kind of an event, but are organic. Yeah. They just kind of happen every day. You know, and it really is about people. You know, we're meeting people, and it just might occur to me, geez, these people would like to meet these other people, and it just sort of dovetails and happens, and it's really magical.
It's an easy interaction. I'll just tell you one quick thing. We built a house on Goldfinch, and it's a cul-de-sac that backs on to the cul-de-sac on Chickadee. Houses are pretty close together. We were looking at the last remaining unbuilt lot. So it felt, because there wasn't a house there yet, like these houses were so close, and they are. Working with Highland Green about siting the house was worked out well. And as we're looking, our next door neighbor came over and introduced herself and welcomed us. You know, I hope you're interested in buying this, and we'd love to have you as a neighbor. And then she said, you know, I'd always rather imagine a gazebo on this site. So we call it the gazebo house. But it was a sense of humor that I loved. And then the next time we came over, and we hadn't bought anything, we were just seeing, could we do this site? And everyone came in and introduced themselves. And it's not a little thing, because my feeling was they're going to have trucks for a year, they're going to have buildings, I mean, it's going to be a nightmare for these people, and they've been here for 7 years. You know, they're not going to want this. And they did. They didn't mind. They want it to be filled up. That really surprised me. I think that says something about the people.
And your neighbor, Ed, was kind enough from his little upstairs window, took a picture of their house under construction just about every single day and put it into a slideshow. And just to watch these guys coming in the winter and shoveling it off. We had a pretty rough winter around here and in New England and elsewhere. Shoveling it off, cleaning it up every day, then going to work.
Shoveling the snow out of the inside of the house so they could continue working. You know, there was a shell of a house, but there were still openings, and that was how dedicated people were to staying on schedule and getting it done. But yeah, Ed did that and then posted it on Picasa and with interesting little subtitles. But it was that kind of thing, is people kind of celebrate one another in a very quiet way. The night we moved in, I hurt myself. And the neighbors the next day, I'm thinking, oh, everyone's going to be intrusive and like, oh, I want to help, I want to help. I'm sorry, I'm very independent. That would drive me crazy. Very nice, but it would drive me crazy. People stopped in. Next door neighbor who wanted the gazebo, 10 minutes every morning, brought me a few daffodils. That tied my shoes one day. That was perfect. The other neighbors would just keep in touch, but nobody was intrusive, and nobody made me feel pathetic or old.
Yeah. So there's such a quiet movement within these communities. They're not out there shouting, "Here I am, I've arrived." They're here to complement people's lifestyles for exactly the way that they want to live. Plug in, plug out. It's your choice to be able to do that. You were talking about proximity and closeness of homes. I just want to take a little side road here. I will tell you, I've been in so many communities that have barely 5 feet between the homes. So this is actually quite a spacious layout here where you see all the mature landscaping. Tell me, Caroline, what I'm hearing you say is that some of the uniqueness that you appreciate about Highland Green is the sociability, the people. But you also talked about the strength of the community, the stability of the community, the reserve study, the openness, the transparency. Not always done at communities. So that's a very big thing. And tell me how nature fits in with you here as a theme.
Well, that was a concern. I mean, we lived on an acre in a neighborhood that had, you know, everybody had a bit of woods around them, and we thought, oh, the houses are going to be too close. What it feels like, partly because utilities are underground, and that's nicer than where we've lived before. It feels like in our little two cul-de-sacs, like you're in a village, and there are little footpaths between the houses. It sounds a little weird, but it's what it feels like. So in the morning, we wake up, we open the shades, and we just sit there and we look outside. We don't have landscaping done yet. Our neighbor's working on theirs. They were very new also. But it feels wonderful. One of the selling points of the houses here, 9-foot ceilings, 6-foot windows for the most part. The light is extraordinary.
I can tell you the sense of community here is palpable. I swung by to see the Feelies the other night. I think I was just going to fill them in on, invite them to come down here today. We were kind of winging it on how this, you know, would be laid out today. So I'll just stop by for a minute. Well, let's see. I sat in the living room. I had Afghan food cooked by a friend of theirs that was visiting from Kabul, and that was delicious. But most of all, there's all different kinds of locations within Highland Green, tucked into the woods, on a corner, in a neighborhood, what have you. But two things struck me about being in that particular house. Because as we know, Joe knows a lot about houses, being an architect. And a lot of folks want to put sunrooms on the back of their homes as a separate room. But the way they laid out their home, and Joe mentioned this, the whole house is a sunroom. Because of all the windows around the back. So that was interesting. But also, they were going into, as Carolyn described, into a location where there were all the other houses around and backed onto another street. But the sight lines and the light and the landscaping with rocks, it feels very private and more open than if I were to back out, you know, into the woods. So it was interesting. Yeah.
But to answer your question about nature, it was imperative that we have trails and water. Okay, we have a sailboat, but we just like being the birds, the animals. All of the neighbors do sightings of what creatures they've seen on their walk, and you know, it's one of the pieces of discussion. There's a real appreciation of what is available to see, and people go out and seek it. So even just within walking distance of where people live here in Highland Green, it's right there. The heath is amazing, the trails are amazing, and then you're in driving distance for so many other things.
Is it awful if I asked you to go back to her quote?
No.
Because I think this is really important. What I'm hearing Caroline say is that she's talking about everything but the house. She's talking about everybody but the sticks, bricks, and mortar. She's talking about something that is intangible. It's an intangible reward, this social ability, this connection, this wellness feeling. That's what these communities are about. That's what Highland Green is about. And it's a misperception to think, oh, it's about the house and I'm buying a house and it's low maintenance and that's it. So this quote, I think, is fantastic. The Highland Green process is not just about sales and building houses. It's about helping people and providing an environment where they discover option they did not know they had.
Oh, sorry.
It's about facilitating people to make their own choices that are best for them. It's about creating a community of people who have made choices they are comfortable with. Everybody here has made a choice that lives here that they are very comfortable with and have found some unexpected pleasures and complements to their lifestyle that Caroline is beginning to describe for you. So I think that we could probably
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the beginning, but just to summarize, you asked me what was unique about Highland Green. Well, we went through the fact that there's local ownership, that the location is superior, the integration of conservation and nature is somewhat unprecedented, really. That the strength and stability is something that the community is very proud of. That neighborly ambiance or sense of community is very important. And also that wellness, meaning mostly the interaction with others, amongst other things, is very important. So that sort of summarizes that first part of our discussions today. But I thought maybe, well, and there goes my phone, excuse me, sorry. I thought maybe what I would do real quick while some of our next panelists arrive is I thought for the benefit of the Kennedys, who I saw wander in, and as well as some other new guests came in. We got 3 minutes. I'll just run through the first few things that they missed because Jane had asked me what's happening at Highland Green. And it kind of, we put some slides together, but it really hit home again of something really interesting is happening here. We went through who the staff members are that are part of Highland Green team. John Coughlin, Director of Operations. Will Honan, that's me. Amber Grant. Brina Stairs, who really runs the show, as I said. Highland Green New Construction Design Coordinator, Sandra Halverson, who you'll run into later. But Team Highland Green is really a part of the community. We're a permanent fixture here. Hildreth and White, our exclusive builder. You'll meet a couple of those guys later. Linda Bernier, a de facto member of the family who's here today, along with Betsy Harrington from Bath Savings. Jane, who is our very, very good friend who's visiting with us today. But what's happened recently is a number of things. Highland Green's received several awards at the International Builder Show. Best Integration of Nature and Landscaping. Our newsletter received a nice award there. That was nice. Our brochure, which we hope everyone will walk away with one today. Our Facebook page, if you haven't connected, please do. Really blowing up. New bocce court at Highland Green. Pickleball has arrived. The Wild Duck Pub has continued to grow and become a central hub of community, and the food is wonderful. But mostly, the most interesting thing is the 27 states and counting that folks have moved here from. Between 2012 and now, and I know I'm repeating myself to some of you, but I can't really, I get excited about saying this. Just between 2012 and now, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, North Dakota, Texas, Nevada, Oregon, and California. It just tells you something. Working with new folks who it looks quite possible will be moving here to get us to 31 states and counting. Red Maple Drive was just a pile of rocks last year and just a concept. Now it's fully called for with 8 homes being built for specific people. Right now as we speak, from North Dakota, Maine, Massachusetts, Maine, New York, Massachusetts, Florida, and right here at Highland Green in Maine, which is interesting. Kestrel Drive, we're about to start a home. We're finishing up this neighborhood. There's 3 home sites available for immediate build there. Basswood is conceptual. It's our next phase. It's a dirt road and woods, and we already have deposits from customers from Ohio, New York, New Hampshire, Illinois, Connecticut, and Indiana. So that's kind of what's happening. It's just some of what's happening right now. And most importantly, what's happened recently is the Feelys moved here. And thank you, Caroline, for helping us today.